16 years. 16 years since the first Kane and Lynch. The second one is unique, but is the first one in the franchise that dated.
You looking to become a historian?
You looking to play a conflicting game?
You must have experienced some messed up games.
I've had my share.
You see, I'm doing this for fun. You think I'm running around on purpose, trying to find the most controversial games?
No, I do not.
I do what I do best. I review. You do what you do best. Give me the games, I talk about them.
So you just want to play weak games?
What are those? Bubsy 3D and Superman N64?
Yeah.
Are they any fun?
Honestly, never. But the video game industry always needs a disaster.
A guy told me one time, don't let yourself get attached to anything you're not willing to walk out on in 30 minutes flat if you feel the heat around the corner. Now, if you're me, and you gotta play when I play, how do you expect to keep my attention?
That is an interesting point. What are you, a monk?
Maybe, but I only had one life. I want to find the good and bad in video games and explore why they're created.
Well, are you willing to retake the heat?
Mr. Redamoto, this is Kane.
After the following success of Hitman Blood Money, IO Interactive wanted to create a new IP that wouldn't just be gritty, but the talk of the town. Jens Peter Kurup was the game director for Kane and Lynch 1. They wanted to use the grittiness from the Hitman games and expand on it. The Hitman series is almost satirical in design for the story, though Kane and Lynch steer clear of anything remotely funny. It just feels dirty. IO Interactive also traveled all around Los Angeles for designs of the environment. They sought out places that felt lifeless and drab, which was the gaming standard for the time, muddy colors with no life, or make everything brown and gray. Martin Goldaic, the art director for the game, said he wanted to find, quote, locations that match the character's mood and perspective. The soundtrack was arranged, composed, and produced by Jesper Kyd, who made the soundtrack for Freedom Fighters, also created by IO Interactive. The company also brought local musicians Peter and Peter Kyd to do additional work. The two were well known in the Danish film industry for their work on the Pusher trilogy and Valhalla Rising. Both have Mads Mikkelsen in it, so you know this beauty of a man will rock it. Kyd arranged the soundtrack and handled the central theme and other pieces, while the Peters worked on the mission music. It all sounds very dire and nerve-wracking, just very similar to Nine Inch Nails and Jesper Kyd's other bodies of work. The soundtrack was never released physically or digitally, but many people have taken the files and pumped them onto the internet, which is excellent for preservation. Only one physical piece of media holds music, a bonus disc, in the special edition of Kane and Lynch, but I can't tell you what it's like since I don't own it. Another interesting fact is that there was a mobile phone port for Kane and Lynch. The gameplay, well, is this. If you want to learn more about this odd port or watch more gameplay, I recommend checking out Mini-Me's review, which is a great video, and his channel is also perfect. Soon, they created the game, and it was also announced, and finally, the game went gold on October 31st, 2007. Which helped release the game 10 days early. Though, following the release of the game is even more intriguing. Most of the game's reception was mixed to favorable, but still average. Some thought it had satisfying action, while others called it a sickly mess. The most significant controversy, though, was at GameSpot. An editor at GameSpot, Jeff Gertzman, gave Kane and Lynch a 6 out of 10. There's nothing wrong with that, because editors get paid for their opinions and work. The problem was, Eidos Interactive, the publishers of Kane and Lynch, heavily advertised on GameSpot and was able to influence editorial decisions at the company. GameSpot denied that Eidos influenced the firing of Gertzman at the time. However, as of March 2012, the non-disclosure agreement that forced Gertzman to withhold the details of his termination was nullified. Not long after, Gertzman confirmed the firing was related to threats of Eidos pulling advertising revenue away from GameSpot because of his poor review scores. So much for freedom of speech. Now, I'm not saying do not support GameSpot or IO Interactive, but it is good to know that any company can do shady things. Finally, after the game's success and being the talk of the town, Hollywood, like always, decided to create a movie based on the video game. They had signed Bruce Willis onto the project and signed Simon Crane as the film's director. They also had signed, or at least talked about having Jamie Foxx on board, which would have been intriguing, though this project never went anywhere and disappeared into the darkness. Before I go any further, you must know this story is not about a good man. So, is this more about an anti-hero like Dexter Morgan or the Punisher? Still, some individuals may consider their actions evil even if their intentions are honorable. Kane is not a hero, or even close to an anti-hero. He's horrible, despicable, sick, violent, and unbalanced. There is no good quality in Kane, because he is the villain. The story starts with a monologue.
Dear Jenny, I've been trying to write you this letter for 14 years. Today is my last chance. This afternoon, I will pay for my mistakes with my life. It's only fair.
The monologue is a letter written by Kane addressed to his daughter, Jenny. Kane is traveling to death row after being convicted of manslaughter and probably even worse crimes. While being transported, Kane is chatted up by a man named Lynch, who has a plan.
Wake up. Mr. Kane.
What?
I need you to cover your head.
What did you say?
Just cover your head now!
You and Lynch then fight through the city with the help of some mercenaries and make it out of town to an abandoned mall. After traveling for some time, you are confronted by 4 men that are part of an organization called the Seven. The brothers lead this group, along with their henchmen Mute and Carlos, who seems close to Kane. The Seven accused Kane of stealing money from them, and as collateral, they took Kane's wife and daughter as hostages. They give Kane a timeline of 3 weeks to retrieve the money, or they kill his family. The Seven also command Lynch to follow Kane to be his watchdog. The Seven leave Kane and Lynch and give them supplies and a vehicle. They soon go over tactics, but the audience can tell they only work well together after some time. However, their differences get pushed aside as police officers arrive, and the two are forced to shoot their way out to escape. Later, Kane explains that he did not steal from the Seven, but knows who did and where they hid it. Kane sets up a local bank robbery with an old colleague of his. They go through the bank, and while doing so, they send Lynch to cover the lobby and secure some hostages. Soon, the vault breaker goes through and opens the vault. Kane soon finds out, though, that only half of the cash is there. It also shows more of Kane's anger issues. While he seems mildly annoyed at Lynch, he becomes more upset with the vault breaker. When you finally meet up with Lynch and discover he has a mental illness and periodic episodes of violent psychosis, while you were cracking the vault, Lynch blacked out and killed all the hostages after his medication wore off, forcing Kane and Lynch to shoot their way out and flee in a van driven by their getaway driver. So that is just the first couple of missions, and you start realizing the game you are getting into and how dark these characters are. These are no good men, just devils. The rest of the story is depressing and never eases up. You go to Japan to kidnap a crime lord's daughter for ransom and realize how twisted Kane is. He sets up a deal so they can have an alliance against the Seven. The crime boss, Radamoto, doesn't show up, but Kane and Radamoto start hashing out a negotiation. After the daughter, Yuko, tries to escape, Lynch accidentally shoots and kills her, ruining any plan Kane had. So now, he's back to square one. They hit their way out like any other plan and head to the Seven, with confidence burned and only half the cash needed. Lynch reveals to Kane that he made a deal with the Seven to betray Kane to ensure his survival and to have a position within the Seven. However, he is betrayed and knocked unconscious at the construction site where Kane and his family will be executed. The leaders of the Seven deny Kane's plea for additional time, after which the brothers and Carlos depart for Havana, leaving Mute to conduct the executions. After being brought to the construction site with her daughter, Kane's wife expresses her disgust with Kane, but is executed by Mute before he can answer her, even though the Seven promised to let Kane speak with his wife. Regaining consciousness, Lynch attacks his kidnappers, while in a rage Kane beats Mute to a bloody pulp. Kane and Lynch then protect Kane's daughter, Jenny, from the Seven's reinforcement as she cries over her mother's body. Kane buries his wife and plans to take out the Seven for his daughter's safety. Kane and Lynch free a group of dead men from prison: Riffic, Thampa, and Shelley. These men have been wronged by the Seven and joining the duo to get revenge, although Shelley expresses resentment working with Lynch, who he recognizes. He also revealed that Lynch may have killed his wife. Before flying to Havana, they return to Tokyo and kill Radamoto, reclaiming the briefcase of money to finance their war with the Seven. In Havana, Kane keeps everyone motivated with promises of payment as they track down the brothers and Carlos. Kane informs Lynch that the Seven profit from assisting factions in civil wars, with Havana supposedly the last job needed for their retirement. They find themselves caught up in an ongoing civil war, joining the Cuban Revolutionary Armed Forces and battling the Seven's forces attempting to stage a coup.
Carlos, I'm only gonna ask you this once. Tell me where the brothers are. I need to find them.
They just ran, but I can lead you to them.
They find Carlos abandoned by the brothers. Kane recruits Carlos, and Thampa, no longer trusting Kane's judgment, leaves the mission. Skipping ahead eventually leads to you killing the rest of the Seven and saving a recaptured Jenny. You have two choices: leave in a helicopter with Jenny and leave everyone else behind, or go in town to save your own men. This results in them leaving you, then Kane and Lynch hopping into a boat that slowly drifts along the river, while Kane holds a dying Jenny and whispers to her about the letter he tried to send her. The other option is you literally leaving with Jenny in a helicopter and everybody thinking you're a traitor and your daughter calling you a traitor. So it's not a win-win. So what was the point of the game? I have two firm ideas about this. One idea I felt the game was trying to focus on was it just wanted to be violent for the sake of violence. While it can be used quite well for shock value, for example, when you find Lynch killing the police and civilians just because of a mental disorder, or when Kane cuts up Radamoto's dead body like he's torturing him, the problem with having these moments is what does it add to the story message it's trying to give. I had this problem with a past review, Shell Shock Nom 67. In the study, I chatted about how I feel like it was just trying to state Vietnam was hell. While it was, it just showed violence and nothing more. Maybe I was wrong, but it just mentioned the war and never tried to convey a message. I feel like as audiences, we know a war is bad, but add a story to that to make us relate and be part of the cause and see the horrors of war. It just sometimes felt like the developers gave an almost childlike feeling to the conflict. This is the same feeling I have with Kane and Lynch, Dead Men, and its sequel. I felt IO Interactive were going through their edgy teen era. They wanted to be nihilistic and be a piece of media that ruffled some feathers. I have a struggling time trying to find a reason why this game was made. Another idea I have mellowed over is how Dead Men never win. You have two characters who are morally sadistic and inhumane in their exploits. They cannot change their past. With Kane, you have a man. While on the surface, it seems like a person accepts his sin and states after the job he has done. We know as the audience that is not true. Kane is a morally corrupt man and will do anything in his power to exert it, with it being violence and or leverage. He plays in the filth, no matter the stakes, but loves touting the line, and you can see that in the sequel. The other main protagonist you have is Lynch. A man always on edge who probably killed his wife through a psychotic episode. He is a literal ticking time bomb, and instead of facing the music, he allows himself to be a detriment that hurts innocent lives and colleagues. Kane and Lynch know they are sick people, and they know their past, but will never admit it. They honestly know they can't fix their fate or change previous events, but they try and try again. Even when fellow like-minded assholes point this out to them, they refuse to hear the sane phrases. You either die or live long enough with these two men to be part of the filth and horror they created. Now, while I have strong opinions on the story and how it portrays its characters, how the voice actors sell their characters is commendable. Even if I do not say their names, everyone in the cast did a fantastic job. Some standout roles I loved were Melissa Hutchinson, who played Clementine in the Walking Dead video game series, who voices Jenny in this game.
Oh, baby, let me hold you.
Get the fuck away from me, you murderer!
What? But why?
I said get the fuck away!
Jenny, I'm your father.
Shut up! I should fucking kill you! You abandoned us.
Honey, I'm sorry.
For 14 years! Until we get dragged from bed and Mom gets shot because of some shit you've done!
Jerry Ann Monroe played Lynch, who has been in many films, Star Wars games, and more.
Call the 7. Tell them I'm coming. Tell them I got what they want. I'll have to take my chances.
Yeah, sure. Good luck with that.
They have my family. I can't run.
I'll make sure you don't. As soon as I hand you over, my job is done. I don't need no trouble.
You just don't get it, do you? You are as dead as I am.
I don't think so, buddy.
And what is that supposed to mean?
I have a deal with them.
Yeah, right.
Brian Bloom is one of my favorite voice talents because his voice is crisp. He has been in tons of work as well.
Kane, what are you
Please,
doing here?
take it easy.
I'm surprised to see you. Did my security let you in?
I let myself in.
Does my father know you're here?
I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
So, what made you come crawling back?
Yoko, I need your help here.
And why would I help you? You wouldn't.
That's enough.
Whoa. She's all limp. I didn't even hit her that hard.
It just makes our job easier.
What's this?
The other actors who played all the other horrible people were excellent and high quality. Nothing that I noted as odd or funny. The gameplay for Kane and Lynch is just a third-person shooter that usually has tons of action all around you. The gunplay is pretty accurate when shooting, but you do not have to pay attention to recoil. Throughout the game, you'll experience pistols, assault rifles, snipers, machine guns, and RPGs. Some of these weapons are effective, but they still feel and sound weak. The color palette and environment remind me of Heat, but the firefights never sound like the film, which is a shame. The game will take you to many locales, from city streets, banks, highways, nightclubs, roads of Japan, high-rise, prison, and Venezuela. Every level varies from feel and how difficult they can be. Most of the time, the missions would take a few tries. But once I entered Venezuela, I realized I sometimes needed more patience. It got exhausting, just the repeating times of dying and restarting repeatedly. The game just throws tons and tons of military at you, which is understandable for the story, but in execution, it's a pain. I should not have to change the difficulty of getting past a mission or sit back and pick off enemies one by one from a considerable distance. Why should I play against the game's mechanics to get some satisfaction? It becomes a chore of bullets flying from every direction, and with the lousy cover mechanics. The cover mechanics are odd in this one too. Instead of clicking a button to lock into the cover, your character kind of like just sticks to it, which feels inadequate for protection. Another issue with the cover mechanic is that it is difficult to get into once you're shot at. Now, another mechanic is throwing back tear gas. Some games allow you to toss grenades, but not all. So it's a fun little gimmick that they have in Kane and Lynch. Can even call it that. Now, while playing as Kane, if you get knocked down, you'll have these sort of flashbacks. Usually dialogue from a past cutscene or a family memory. The pickup system is you getting stabbed by adrenaline. However, you can accidentally overdose if you go down too many times. So, don't do drugs, kids. Another intriguing mechanic is if a particular character you are working with is angry with you from a past interaction in the story, they will be less likely to give you ammo or help cover you. It is an exciting idea and concept, but it barely affected my gameplay. The missions I enjoyed the most were raiding the Tokyo Business Tower, running through the streets, and breaking into prison. I love the Tokyo missions because even though the game's cover and shooting systems are not my favorite, they mesh into an entertaining experience once all connected. Ducking behind cars and tossing back gas grenades or hiding behind pillars that break off like it's in the Matrix is just dope. I just wished moments like this would be more prominent in the game, but they usually aren't. Overall, the gameplay is fine, but definitely the least memorable in the series, but still a stepping stone for better ideas. E3 2010 unveils Kane and Lynch 2. While Kane and Lynch 1 was dull with a boring plan, Kane and Lynch 2 made it grittier and created a pixelated hellscape of grand design.
Listen to me, Lynch. If you love this woman, you stay the fuck away.
Where is she? Help me! Sue! God damn it! They got her!
IO Interactive seems not to hold any punches. While at E3 they had many interviews with companies such as IGN and The Escapist. Most interviewed were IO Interactive developers and associates. This time around, Karsten Lund was the game director for the project. They wanted to create an intense experience. Rasmus Poulsen was the art director and wanted to make an anti-game, and continued to seek an uncomfortable and tiresome and oppressive atmosphere, insisting on its main direction also to follow the loneliness of day-to-day life, describing it as sad poetry. So with this in mind, Poulsen traveled to Shanghai with a handheld low-quality camera with some colleagues to capture reference images to make artwork, sketches, mock-ups, and how the game would generally look to the player. In the Game Informer issue 201, page 58, Dan Reichert stated something that should have been fleshed out more. He states, Lynch's psychotic nature caused him to hallucinate in the first game occasionally. Game director Karsten Lynch says, we're having a lot of fun exploring Lynch as a character and pushing the boundaries in all areas. Now, while I think it is interesting that we are going down this route, they didn't do enough with Lynch's character. In the first game, he was a loose cannon. Whatever medication he was taking affected him in ways that were dangerous to him, his crew, and innocent lives around him. Though, for some odd reason, he is doing better in dog days. Though not all the time. In combat, if you're taking damage or tons of carnage is happening around you, Lynch starts humming and almost trying to find some sanity. He's virtually finding a safe place, his zen. But even when he goes through hell with his girlfriend, Sue, dying in front of him or being tortured, they don't just take that extra step of crazy. If you want me to feel for these horrible people or show their side, then do something crazy. Let us play him having a psychotic break or going through a nightmare. His screaming or humming only makes me intrigued. It doesn't add to the gameplay, only the story slightly, leaving the player with many unanswered questions. I feel they could have pushed the boundary even more. Another intriguing aspect I enjoyed is the audio and soundtrack. This time, the soundtrack was created by German composer Mona Murr, who has done work on Balance and Velvet Assassin. And surprisingly enough, Mona was inspired by Blade Runner for its depiction in the soundtrack, which can be heard a little bit. Mona Murr described the music as, "The instruments are the industrial sounds of the city, orchestrated to fit the player's emotional experience. If we are successful, the audience will perceive this as a game without music." Murr was hired to create complex ambient soundscape layers from real city noises, vintage synthesizers, guitar amplifiers, and unusual software. They also had planned on releasing an album, but the studio canceled late into development. When Kane and Lynch 2 was released, it had mixed to average reviews, but scored slightly higher than the first. Some ideas ripped it to shreds, but I was unaware of such opinions. All I knew was that the story, like the first, was dark and depressing. And well, it is. The game does not tell you this, but Kane and Lynch 2 is set 4 years after the effect of the first one. Kane's daughter is alive, but nothing else to note about Kane's past. However, one odd thing to note is both these men are legit criminals on the run. How are they not on FBI's Most Wanted and Interpol's radar? The game is set around 2010 with flip phones and such, so you can still give the benefit of the doubt that they're hard to track. But this is after 9/11. Airport security would be tighter than your mom. But these men are never subtle. No Jason Bourne, that is for sure. So the story begins with Kane arriving in Shanghai to meet Lynch for a smuggling operation. Lynch takes Kane along on an errand. Lynch is there to threaten an informant named Lee Brady Lung. The plan goes wrong.
Kick down the door. Little, get back! Hell is this? Well, I'll be damned! Hey! Put down your gun! You hear me?
They finally corner him, and his girlfriend, Brady's girlfriend, gets shot. Then Brady decides to commit suicide, which to everyone is shocking.
What just happened? Did he just... The fuck just happened? You just shot his girl, Kane. The fuck I did! Yeah. Let's get your luggage. Shit. I gotta think of some story to tell Glazer.
Next, Kane and Lynch meet with Glazer to discuss the smuggling operation. They soon get ambushed by a gang with added pressure from the police, who get involved, and it becomes a firefight. After fighting through the city, they soon find out that the leader of the attacks is a crime lord named Singh. Kane, Lynch, and Glazer's mercenaries decide to raid Singh's sweatshop headquarters and capture him. Some of Glazer's men died in the raid, but they soon apprehend Singh. During the interrogation, it is revealed that the girl killed with Brady was the daughter of a high-ranking Politburo official named Shang Xi. He states if anyone is friendly with Kane or Lynch, they will die as well. So what does everybody decide to do? They turn on Kane and Lynch, and everything hits the fan.
Inside!
The duo kills everyone to hide the truth from Glazer, and buy themselves some more time. Kane and Lynch decide to lay low at a restaurant. So, Lynch calls his girlfriend Sue to tell her to pack up so they can leave the city, but she never answers. Suddenly, a SWAT team breaches in and starts firing.
Oh shit! What? What the fuck?
Kane and Lynch again shoot out of the issue and head to Sue's apartment complex. The men soon discover that Singh's men have also taken over the building. Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days consist of this set action and reaction. The duo is trying to fix said problem, but getting into deeper and deeper shit. No matter their turn, it still leads them into more violent confrontations, betrayals, and in intense gunfights. While the first game focuses on Kane's issues and tribulations, the second follows Lynch. In a way, the story, while gritty for its portrayal of murders and torture, the characters seem oddly bonded, but still resent each other. While the first game is an expression of evil people, the second is about how far wrong people are willing to go to get revenge. Honestly, both games are the same. It doesn't bring anything to the table story-wise, which is a shame. While the atmosphere and environment are fantastic through the lens of an old digital camcorder, it tells almost the same story of revenge and how to unfuck the most giant fuck-up they ever created. It is the epitome of a dog day. Kane and Lynch 2 gameplay, while dated in many aspects, improved so much from the first installment. I love the whole vibe of the game. While still a primary third-person shooter, the gameplay has fun elements and set pieces that I adore. The game is set in Shanghai, but you will travel through crowded streets, packed restaurants, a dingy dry cleaning front, and even an airport. The game looks rough, but has fantastic environments. It may look rough since it's intended to look like a digital camcorder, but the presentation is way more visceral than the first. Gunshots in the game are loud and sound impactful. Lights blur and distort across the digital landscape. The game indicates damage when getting shot as your camera screen has dead pixels. Also, my favorite scene is this. This moment is stellar in design and feel. It feels like a blast that has an impact and can devastate blocks of buildings. It is what makes me love the graphic design of this game. Throughout your lovely vacation in Shanghai, you come across an arsenal of weapons, involving pistols, revolvers, shotguns, assault rifles, sniper rifles, and machine guns. While the game sometimes still struggles with accuracy, the guns are way more enjoyable to shoot enemies with. Also, they finally decided to give us a button for using the cover, which is my favorite feature. It makes firefights feel adrenaline pumping and fun to play. Now the game takes you all over China, to skyscrapers, cargo docks, crowded streets, and parking garages. They are well designed and always stay within their welcome. My favorite mission was a skyscraper. Huge windows are broken, tight corners shoot through cubicles, and papers fly everywhere. It's just an excellent experience. It's basically Die Hard with two psychopaths. They introduced two new mechanics, throwing and blowing up gas canisters, and the recovering when shot mechanic. In the game, you can find gas canisters or propane tanks to throw at enemies. Once thrown, you can shoot at them and they blow up. It is the game's equivalent of a grenade since they don't have any. Another mechanic they change is when you get on your final stand. Instead of the first game where you had to rely on your teammates to revive you, you can just stand back up in this one. It's not the most realistic aspect in the world, but it works. Overall, the gameplay is better, while the story is concise and doesn't feel forced. I love the second one, honestly more than the first. So what is the next adventure for Kane and Lynch? Honestly, I'm not sure. I hope they take it somewhere because I have issues with the story with the first one, and I wish they added more to the second one. It'd be fantastic if they took a step back and dove deep into what makes these characters tick and who they are. almost as a character study with added on violence. Though, from my knowledge, IO Interactive lost the rights to Kane and Lynch. But they kept Freedom Fighters, so maybe we'll get another sequel from that. I feel like this story can go somewhere. It was enjoyable, and a flawed experience, with a bunch of psychopaths. But with some time, I think third time's the charm.